Please, sit down.
It's 4 a.m. An emergency meeting has been called because what a risk analyst discovered can't wait even a few hours. Assembled here is all senior management. They sit in tense, patient silence, waiting for the big boss to get started.
Welcome, everyone. I must apologize for dragging you all here at such an uncommon hour.
John is a man who uses charisma to guide conversation, a useful tool for leaders. He also leverages authority to push people, but that comes later and only when charm fails. This iconic scene from Margin Call shows us exactly how he pulls these levers and the subtle ways he manages executive communication in real time. In order to kick this meeting off properly, he starts with humility, an apology that calls out the unorthodox urgency of this meeting, showing consideration for everyone here. But from a man like this, everything is strategic.
But from what I've been told, this matter needs to be dealt with urgently. So urgently, in fact, probably should have been addressed weeks ago, but that is spilt milk under the bridge.
John takes note this should have been addressed, but doesn't embarrass anyone or look to investigate why. It's a reminder that they are all leaders in the business of taking initiative, a standard he expects from everyone in this meeting. That last line, spilt milk under the bridge, is also very clever. It's a metaphor, a combination of two idioms. John takes advantage of the halo effect. When you perceive someone as smart or successful, you automatically interpret an odd statement like this in a positive light. The alternative Horns effect, if someone is perceived as foolish, this same metaphor would be viewed as them getting it wrong.
So, why doesn't somebody tell me what they think is going on here?
Notice the way his sentence trails off into an almost growl? Let's boost the audio.
They think is going on here.
This man is a dragon in a room full of sharks and displays this quality both physically and conversationally throughout this meeting. The problem they're here to address puts everyone in uncharted waters, and one of those sharks is having trouble finding his teeth.
Mr. Tulda, as I mentioned earlier, if you compare the figure at the top of page 13...
Jared, it's a little early for all that. Just speak to me in plain English.
Jared is the day-to-day leading executive here, so it falls to him to answer. But you can see it on Sam's face and how John interrupts him. This is not that kind of meeting. Sam is also not a fan of Jared, which is the reason for this subtle scorn, and why we'll see him chuckle in a second at John's jab.
Okay.
In fact, I'd like to speak to the guy who put this together. Mr. Sullivan, is it? Does he speak English?
Sir?
John's punishments are subtle, but they're there if you're paying attention. Jared has to maintain, to look confident, but he has no idea how to explain the problem. Is he always looking at the document as a crutch to pull information from and to avoid eye contact? This is something John is quick to notice and then change the pace.
Certainly. That would be Peter Sullivan right here.
Oh, Mr. Sullivan, you're here. Good morning.
When Jared knows the answer, he has a much more confident delivery and sits back in relief. And the shot is a little bit more open to represent that. Something you'll notice about how this scene is shot in general, John is often positioned alone, in comfort and authority, with lots of empty space, while everyone else is crowded and cluttered, which is meant to visually emphasize how people are feeling tense and boxed in. It's an incredible cast of actors who, for a big group, can visualize the spectrum of emotions through this scene. It's not just visual either, there's even a subtle change in verbal tone from John that's much softer as he addresses a less senior subordinate.
Maybe you could tell me what you think is going on here. And please, speak as you might to a young child or a golden retriever.
Calling him Mr. Sullivan is a term of respect, and followed by self-deprecation, referring to himself as a child or a golden retriever, he is lowering himself to be more approachable.
It wasn't brains that got me here, I can assure you of that.
This statement is downright sinister, and that smile seals the judgment. He is undoubtedly intelligent to have climbed to the position he's in. He makes million-dollar decisions, and he's leading this meeting. He is attempting to be relatable, but you can't hide a dragon. This is Peter Sullivan, the analyst whose discovery initiated this meeting. We learned earlier in the film he's quite capable.
What's your background?
I hold a doctorate in engineering, specialty in propulsion from MIT with a bachelor's from Penn.
So you're a rocket scientist?
I was.
No matter how smart you are, if you've never been at this table, or at least seen this before, it is intimidating, especially if you're in a room full of people who outrank you. Peter is nervous, and John has to interrupt Peter to move things along.
Just relax, stand up, tell us in a clear voice what is the nature of the problem.
Powerful people can have an intimidation problem, and for good reason. We all know this. Both in and outside of business, people don't carefully gather details or consider all the information. We make decisions and judgments based on indicators. Make a poor impression, look meek or unqualified in an environment like this, and there is no redo. It's stressful because it's about performing to a standard that isn't yours. But Peter's a smart guy, and he handles himself. At least, for now.
Now the problem, which is, I guess, why we are here tonight, is that it takes us, the firm, about a month to layer these products correctly, thereby posing a challenge from a risk management standpoint.
And Mr. Sullivan, that challenge is?
Well, we have to hold these assets on our books longer than we might ideally like to.
Okay, this is a bit reductive, but mortgage-backed securities were bought and sold in large quantities by firms like this, and when the underlying mortgages failed, it created this domino effect that caused the 2008 financial crisis, damaging the US and global economy for years. What Peter figured out is that the dominoes are starting to fall, and there is a predictable collapse that's almost here.
And Mr. Sullivan, what does your model say that means for us here?
Well, that's where it becomes a projection. But,
Peter looks to Jared. It's Jared's job to stay ahead of these kinds of problems, and Peter is about to make him look bad for not catching a potentially company bankrupting event.
You're speaking with me, Mr. Sullivan.
You saw the eyes? That menacing stare? It's quick, but it's present. This is one of the most expressive and least subtle gestures meant to tamp down Jared's slight but recognizable intimidation directed at Peter. John's dragon-like perception and cunning are on full display. He wants the truth uninhibited, even if someone will be embarrassed.
well, sir, if those assets decrease by just 25% and remain on our books, that loss would be greater than the current market capitalization of this entire company.
John's hand slides across the table because he already has the solution. His body is saying what's in his mind. The assets on the books are a problem. Get rid of the assets and you get rid of the problem. That's if you can get rid of them, which is what becomes John's task. He now needs everybody else to catch up.
So, what you're telling me is that the music is about to stop, and we're going to be left holding the biggest bag of odorous excrement ever assembled in the history of capitalism.
John is once again guiding the conversation to the conclusion he wants. He's using humorous imagery to describe the assets as a big bag of shit.
Odorous excrement.
Though a little crude, he is seeking agreement from the group. But it's an ask, which leaves room for, in this case, unintentional dissent.
What this model shows is the music, so to speak, just slowing. If the music were to stop, as you put it, then this model wouldn't be even close to that scenario. It would be considerably worse.
Peter makes a subtle blunder here. He contradicts John's conclusion. Peter is attempting to be accurate with the assessment, which would be good if the conclusion and solution has not already been drawn yet. But it has. Peter just doesn't know that. For his subtle blunder, he gets a subtle punishment in the form of a condescending question. John leans in with this question, priming what follows with authority.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Sullivan. Do you care to know why I'm in this chair with you all? I mean, why I earn the big bucks?
When you hold a conversation hostage with a question that demands a specific response,
Yes.
it's a flex of authority that feels awkward and submissive if it's you being led around the room like that.
I'm here to guess what the music might do a week, a month, a year from now. And standing here tonight, I'm afraid that I don't hear a thing.
This switch from charisma to authority, he is saying the same thing he said when describing them all holding the bag. He even goes back to the window, but this time the speech is bookended by declarative statements.
So, now that we know the music has stopped, what can we do about it? Mr. Cole, Ms. Robertson, I'm afraid I think this is where you're supposed to step back in. Lord knows we've relied enough on Mr. Sullivan tonight. What do you have for us?
The few seconds he spends talking after calling on them is a gift. He's giving them a moment to gather their thoughts. Unfortunately, silence. Despite being the next authority down from John, Jared doesn't know what to do, revealing he might be a little out of his depth. Leaders often climb their way to the top using several micro-philosophies that guide them when a decision has no clear path forward. Finding one or two of those philosophies for yourself just might save you in a moment like this.
What have I told you since the first day you stepped into my office? There are 3 ways to make a living in this business. Be first, be smarter, or cheat. No, I don't cheat. And although I like to think we have some pretty smart people in this building, it sure is a hell of a lot easier to just be first.
This is his switch back to charisma. Even in a crisis, John uses this as an opportunity for a teachable moment. These philosophies are tested on the way up, and they are for these exact scenarios. They help define the optimal path forward. It's a kind of game theory. Let's pick a path and talk through like it's possible.
Sell it all today.
Is that even possible, Sam?
Again, John already had this idea from the moment his hand slid across the table, but he wants it to come from Jared. Another dragon-like move, hedging his accountability should things go wrong. For the actual plan, he looks to Sam, who could guess at this suggestion, but Sam has moral issues with the path they're exploring.
Where is this going to come back to us?
Everywhere.
Sam, I don't think you seem to understand what your boy here has just said.
John looks down with a sigh of frustration. He knows he has to make a shift back to authority with Sam and would prefer not to. He wants Sam to just be on his side and solution-oriented instead of morally considerate.
If I made you, how would you do this?
The ask from John is for an impromptu presentation on a scenario that has never happened before. This is something that takes years of experience. To strip away what does not matter, focus on how to achieve the goal, in this case, selling all the assets, and communicate that clearly and succinctly.
Well, you call the traders in for the normal 6:30 meeting and you be honest with them, because they're going to know it's the end either way. So you're going to have to throw them a bone, and a pretty big one. And then you've got to come out of the gate storming.
Sam explains the cost and the risks. Impressive for an on-the-spot plan that will literally save the company, but there's one more risk he wants to address.
But John, if you do this, you will kill the market for years. It's over. And you're selling something that you know has no value.
We are selling to willing buyers at the current fair market price, so that we may survive.
John's transition back to authority here is obvious with the buildup in his voice. He's pulling rank, and even though he's the boss, he has to walk a careful line because this doesn't work without Sam.
You will never sell anything to any of those people ever again.
I understand.
Do you?
Do you? This is it. I'm telling you, this is it.
For the first time, John uses heavy emotion to communicate, emphasizing the necessity of this decision. But necessity does a lot of heavy lifting here. John is taking responsibility for his company, investors, employees, but at the expense of others. He lives in a system that he doesn't control and is navigating it for his own interests. It's just incredibly ugly, and that's what Sam is calling out. Which brings to mind John's philosophy.
No, I don't cheat.
Selling a product that by the end of the day will diminish in so much value some companies will close is something some might consider cheating. What do you think? Who's right, John or Sam?
We meet back here in an hour. Sam, let's talk.
What you just watched is a two-mode operating system. Charisma opens. It lowers defenses, builds rapport, and creates the condition for people to think clearly. Authority closes, removes options, compels compliance, and moves the conversation to a conclusion. The critical distinction is sequence. Authority, if used first, creates resistance. Charisma, on the other hand, creates alignment. The moral question Sam raises doesn't go away either. John removes it as an obstacle by removing the "is this good or bad" framework to a framework of survival. Once survival is the frame, the moral question doesn't disappear, but it does become secondary to something more primal. And at that moment, most people comply. Because of this meeting and everyone's compliance, they succeed in selling off the assets, saving the company from a devastating financial hit. Survival for a dragon will always include their trove of treasure.
It's just money.